Good afternoon and welcome to this live stream today. I just wanted to say, Martina, as soon as I hit go, I heard probably your notification on the phone that we are live right now. And I won't do the double check because on my end, it says everything is go and we appear to be live here on the School Beyond Limitations Facebook page, as well as on the ExzellenzGroup page. I welcome all of you out of Bern, Switzerland here. My name is Joel Lenz, and I'll be sort of the interviewer, I guess, today, asking Martina about all her innovative ideas and what the School Beyond Limitations is actually about, and why it's a pretty cool solution in uncertain times like these. But I don't want to make this intro too long, Martina. All the pleasures and all the acclamations go towards you. Why don't you give us a short introduction to who you are and why you're here today?
Well, first of all, Joël, thank you for inviting me to talk about education in times of change, because I think we are really in the midst of change, and this is very important to be prepared for that. And yes, about myself, well, my name is Martina Geromin. I'm the CEO and co-founder of School Beyond Limitations. I've been working in the educational field for, now I can't even say that, right? It's 35 years, because if you say you've been in a field for so long, then that also tells you something about the age. Anyway, but education has been my passion from the very beginning. I already as a child knew that I would be ending up working in education. So I started very traditionally as a teacher, first studying, of course, to become a teacher. I studied, I hold a doctoral degree in philosophy, and I also hold a doctoral degree then in higher education management. But I went through the different cycles, and I also worked in different systems. And, I just realized, education is the way to go forward if we want to change society. Because as Nelson Mandela said, education is the most powerful weapon. I don't like the word weapon, but it's like that, right? If there is investment in education, and if we work with students accordingly, then we can embrace anything that's out there. So that's where I'm coming from, and I'm very passionate about what I'm doing.
Perfect. I just realized maybe I should change your name to Dr. Martina Geromin. I don't know, maybe I change it back in the midst of the live stream. But I just heard both titles. I was like, oh, wow, true. I always forget about your background in the education system and how deep that background is. And I'm sure we will get into it as well in the next couple of, I would say 45 minutes is our end goal for our talk here. And then obviously in the end, we will open up the discussion. If there are any comments, please let us know below, because I can manage them here. And if you're okay, I can even show them to also be able to see for all our lovely viewers.
Just Joël, if I may just say something, what I really enjoy the most is actually this kind of cross-generational talk, having this possibility to talk to a young entrepreneur. You are the young entrepreneur, and you've been very versatile with how you approach your life. And I think this is very valuable also in this discussion, that we bring in different views and also different generations. And thank you for having me again.
Well, thanks for having me as well. And if I can follow my younger brother, also a future attendee at the School Beyond Limitations, he always tells me that if you're 24, it's close to being 30, so closer to being 50. I always take that as a compliment from a young age. So it sounds nice to also hear that there's a cool generation between us here. Just a quick on my end, my name is Joel Lenz. As I said, I'll be mainly interviewing you today, Martina, and in my company, the ExzellenzGroup Ltd, a media company, a media consultancy, we like to call ourselves. I'm responsible for all the marketing and all the outreach steps like we're doing here in this live stream. Okay, obviously, we're here to talk about School Beyond Limitations, but I also want to narrow the topic down, Martina, on a few points. I have written a few notes down here if I'm looking on to the right. And I guess in times like these where people or children can start to go back to school. Or if you look over to the US, where they actually have to stay home, there's a big debate going on. Do we send children back to school or not? Is School Beyond Limitations a very cool solution? Because it doesn't matter where the child is, it just needs an internet connection, the thrive to actually learn something, to be innovative, and I guess the patience to sit there and enjoy his school from wherever he is in the world. So my first thing, which I always think about, is online learning a real alternative to traditional school, or is it even better?
Well, I think there are a number of things I would like to say about this here, because, I'm coming from also traditional school settings, and I must say, going to a school infrastructure, going into a classroom has, of course, also its advantages. And when we started to actually design School Beyond Limitations and putting it online, it came really out of the idea. You were referring before, there's more freedom in the US, for instance. Homeschooling is much more something which is possible in the US, and in Europe, maybe we are still in the process of going towards that change a little bit more. But, in my career, I've encountered so many families who really had to move from one country to the next country all the time. And they, of course, they had the possibility to put their child, their daughter, their son into a school with the same system. But it was always a different school setting with different human resources, with different friends and so forth. And then, there came the idea, well, why don't we set up a school where the school comes along with the children? And as you said rightly before, to give this freedom to the students, but also to their families, because we encounter more and more families who are not those, so-called expats. Of course, there are also expats families, but there are also many entrepreneurs like you are, who actually, and your family is, right, who have different headquarters in different countries, who want their children to come along with them, who don't want to leave their children back. And so this School Beyond Limitations was designed online. It's not only online, we can talk about that later on. But what we have found out through our experience, I was very skeptical, I must say, at the beginning. I was very skeptical, and that's why we went through a very long pilot phase to really trial it out, to see how is it actually to engage online? How is that? Where does the social aspect go? Where does the emotional aspect go? Are the students really, well equipped enough to bond between one another? Are they equipped enough to collaborate? Because one of our most important skills nowadays is really on teamwork, collaboration, right? And interestingly enough, by putting a lot of emphasis in a very, very thoroughly thought through design, we realized that online learning is very flexible, very adaptive. And if it's based on experiential learning, so where the students really engage in their learning, it's not about only listening to lectures, right? Because that can be done in a self-directed way as well. But if you're really embedded in a surrounding, in an online surrounding where you always get stimuli, as a student, to dig deeper, to collaborate with the other and to bond, then everything is possible. And indeed, you can go beyond limitations. So online learning, if designed well, is extremely powerful. And our young generation, you said before, I already belong to the older generation. My brother is younger, and the younger generation of your brother, right, for instance, they are used to online learning. And what we are doing with this online learning, we also prepare them for how to deal with these online learning tools, how to deal with let's say social media as well. so that they get this literacy, and not only literacy, they experience it themselves. So they find out the advantages, the disadvantages, and and they are in this safe environment where they can, bring in all their interests as well. So, following your question again, online learning, based on our experience, we can really say it's a very powerful tool. And students, interestingly enough, and that's where I would like to come in again, we don't only do everything online, we also have moments where the students really meet physically so that they can, establish very, very strong relationships with their peers, but also with their teacher mentors. But what's interesting is that the students develop a bonding with one another online, which goes beyond their school hours. They really bond so much that we had, for instance, through the coronavirus pandemic here in Europe, right? We were very fast in opening up another class. And because, as you may know, and many schools were not ready to undertake a new pathway in education. So the schools were just kind of, let's say, locked, and the students were at home, and they were, so to say, self-directed from the one day to the next day, and nobody actually gave them a lot of support initially. So we started immediately to set up a new class for during that period. And I remember we had a class nearly full immediately, and those students, they never met, and they joined our online school context, and the feedback they gave only after 1 week. They said, well, I feel more connected to these students that I have never met physically than I have then I feel bonded with the students I see on a daily basis. And also with regards to the depth of their learning, they said, well, what we have learned here in 4 weeks is far more than what we learn sometimes throughout the entire school year. So this is where online learning really comes in. But I'm talking about a very personalized online learning modality. And that may be also an aspect which is very, let's say, powerful then at the end of the day, with regards to the learning outcomes of the students.
Very cool. And I guess this approach is not very typical to, let's say, a normal school life or to basically a normal academia life, because as far as most of us who are, I guess, below 20 or maybe 18 have experienced is you get in at school at a certain time, you have your subjects, you have your daily routines. You're forced to sit there for 45 to 60 minutes listening to someone up front, sometimes not really picking anything up, just staying there to be there, and have that very fixed plan as in comparison to these newer models, which we all had to adapt. I mean, thank God for the School Beyond Limitations for these children that they could come in, but there are still many parents, many families. It doesn't matter if you are an owner of a company or if you work at a normal job. You still have these very structured days. And if we then see a school like yours where you have a very experimental learning opportunity to not, come in each day and learn something new, but have a very different approach to learning, I think is one of the biggest strength the school has. And as you said, you have children coming in and after 1 week, I guess 5 days, you mean with 1 week, like a regular school week, right?
Yes.
They come in and they say, wow, I've connected more than I've did the whole time in my normal school environment. I think that says a lot of things about the approach. And Are there certain opportunities which lie in this experimental learning? Is there something where you can pinpoint out and say, hey, this is actually one of the best examples to say this might be a model suited for the masters, if I say so, for all of those regular schools to adapt in the near future?
Do you mean examples, students' examples, or what do you exactly mean by this?
I guess student examples would be the best thing, wouldn't they?
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Well, for instance, we do have a number of students, and one of the students established a very, fond interest in creating animations. And she's constantly doing that. And so we first of all, we also coach our students on a weekly basis, right? Individually, so that we see where do they want what are their goals? What do they want to achieve? And what do they want to really be at a certain point of time? So and sometimes it's just, also these teachers who see something and then they say, why don't you do this? And in this case, this student, she's extremely skilled in creating animations. And that led towards thinking, why don't you become already an entrepreneur on that, right? Why don't you create animations for other people? And she created, for instance, the animation for School Beyond Limitations videos. And now she's now in the process of setting up a website. And this is what we are doing, right? So we adapt to the interest of the students, and we, so to say, our staff, they expand their interests towards, whatever is feasible. So our approach is, as you said before, right? You were mentioning your experience, and also my experience was even more tighter, in the sense that you come into a lesson and you do this lesson, and then, and we look at things, we look at topics from a transdisciplinary point of view. So we do have a certain structure, of course. Our students do come and go to school on a regular basis every day for 3 hours. So they engage for 3 hours with one another from 9 to 12 Central European time. But they understand that we do not categorize into different subject areas. So they don't get, although they understand, well, maybe if I'm talking about, animals, we have a student who is very into horses and animals, and broadening her expertise with regards to that. Of course, she knows this enters into the subject of biology, but it goes beyond. It goes into social studies. How do people relate to animals? What do animals bring to people? So it can go into psychology, it can go into many, many different subject areas. So we are looking at things from from different angles, from different subject areas. And interestingly enough, if we look at the development of education, because this is what we are talking about today also, education in times of change. If we look at Finland, for instance, Finland is, so to say, always at the heart of each educator, because Finland is seen as being, the pioneer in many aspects, right? And what we have introduced in school, at School Beyond Limitations, just abolishing, so to say, subject areas by still making clear that there is mathematics when it's, there's always space for that. Also, Finland now is getting away from structuring a school day into subjects, because you get out of the flow. If I'm talking of real life experience, and that you just said before, you walk into a classroom, or you stay in the classroom and the teacher comes to you, the new teacher, let's say in physics, usually to physics, you go into a lab or so, but just to give an example. So you go for 45 minutes, you just came from, let's say, English, right? And then you stay 45 minutes in English, or maybe sometimes there's a double lesson, and then you have to run as a student and go into the different lesson. And the switch, I mean, your brain can't switch that fast necessarily. Or maybe you are in the flow while you are doing something, working on a project in English, for instance, and you are interrupted and the flow is completely gone, and this is what online learning through this kind of experiential and project-based approach can be facilitated. So you don't cut the flow. You actually allow the flow to unravel. And then another thing, probably what we may want to say, is that students start to see their learning from also a different angle, because their learning it's not school. Now I'm going to school. It's about learning, because they find out learning can go beyond the school hours, right? So what our students, and also those students in this new class during the pandemic, right? They realized, wow, we are still connected afterwards, and they then work on their project works also afterwards. So they bond with them. It's not only, of course, first you have to have a trust relationship, right? Once you have established a trust relationship, then they start to get into learning. I mean, although emotional learning is also important, and that's also a very big aspect and pillar of School Beyond Limitations. So being, giving space also to the personal development of students. We talked about entrepreneurial development before. And, another example could be a student who tells you, well, I'm interested in writing a book. This refers to last year, for instance. A student at the end of March said to the teacher, in writing a book. Well, and then the student got coached in such a way that in 3 months' time, she wrote a book of over 200 pages. And now she's in the process of kind of publishing this book and bringing it out to the, to the public, but with different ways. And also in this way, school can do a lot. And this is where we say we see ourselves as a facilitator for the students to create something, right? So that they don't have to think in terms, I have to wait until I have finished, the school career and university in order to create something. I can do it now. Why not? I mean, if I'm ready. And then we also facilitate, collaboration with entrepreneurs, for instance, so that the students also have the possibility to be mentored by entrepreneurs of the field of their interest once they are ready, right?
Perfect.
So,
and I guess one word which I wrote down while you were talking was flow. I remember being stuck. In Switzerland, you call that the gymnasium. I guess it's a comparison anywhere between high school in America and first or second year of university, depending a bit on which country you're coming from, of course. But I remember hating Tuesday afternoons, and that really turned into hating Tuesday afternoons for life, because I had 4 hours of German in a row. And 4 hours in German in Switzerland in the gymnasium is not that fun. You're sitting there like you're reading Goethe and everything, and you're thinking to yourself, I have to remind myself that this is a school live stream here. It isn't worth it learning this. Why can't I, for example, write a short story, a sketch, whatever it is? It still has something to do with German. But I remember those Tuesday afternoons thinking to myself, where is the flow? When can I finally do something? And that really turned over as a negative example into my day life, and my work day life, where I said Tuesday afternoons, I'm just doing emails for the first couple of years, because I knew that is the afternoon I hate, because I was never productive. And actually through adapting and trying different things, getting into a zone, I started changing my habits there as well. So I guess learning that from a very young age And taking that into your life is probably the best thing you can get out of school, next to all the knowledge, next to all the skills you adapted. And I also wanted to mention, you spoke about the mentorship, coaching from your staff, and you obviously also from your side with your students, but also there is an opportunity now to say, if one student says, I'm a great illustrator, I want to be the best illustrator in the country of Germany or whatever, and I want to get some real life experience, can I do so? They have the opportunities to find a mentor, obviously if he's on board with it, and therefore see or peek a bit behind the curtain to check out what is life after school like if I am an illustrator, what are the daily struggles, can you speak a bit about that, what the thought process was behind that, to actually also find mentors outside of the academia and school life to then help these children develop those skills?
Well, it's interesting when you engage and talk to entrepreneurs about school beyond limitations. And of course, we are in contact with many, many people, not only in academia, also in the field of business, because of what we are doing, but also in the field of education, who also work very experientially. So, you continuously expand your network. And then, of course, once they find out, about school beyond limitations and what we are doing, then they get just fascinated about it. And they say, what? This is amazing, because you are not waiting until they are done with their studies. You already implemented before. And very, very often, of course, you then ask them, would you be prepared, to actually take on, to be a mentor of our mentorees once they are ready to go in that direction. And I have rarely heard, a no. I always hear just yeses, because they say, this is the way forward. This is the way to go. And only recently, I've been in contact with a number also of entrepreneurs in the US and in South America, and in Taiwan, name them, not only in Europe, and young people, older people, they find it all fascinating. I just recently came across, he's himself only 16 and is already an entrepreneur, in his field. And so I also said, and he's been quite successful in the past 4 years. So I said to him, would you be ready to connect, with one of our students? And yes, and this is what we are doing. So in the background, this is, of course, also something I'm doing very intensively, because I think this is, and I always get this kind of feedback by the entrepreneurs, because they say, there are a number of great academic students out there who bring, lots of skills, the 21st, which are needed in the 21st century. But there are also many, many students, they come out of university who don't have the skills because they went through more traditional schooling. Of course, there are also many, great schools and universities who put a lot of emphasis on, on this more experiential learning, and they bring the skills already, leadership skills and so forth. But majority of the students are not there yet. I just often see also students that come to join school beyond limitations, for instance, and who are have been exposed to very traditional schooling, although they are just 12 or 13 years of age. Maybe they still find it difficult to engage initially, because they always wait for the teacher to tell them what to do, right?
Yes.
While we encourage the students to actually connect with their own essence, to find their passion, and through their passion, then we help them explore new fields as well, right? So, but they, it's never too late if they are ready to open up, of course. And once they open up, the students open up and get into this more self-directed learning module and accountable module of learning, and experiencing also this idea, well, I am an expert in my field and I can share my knowledge, my notions, my just to come back to the example that you brought up before, when you talked about your Tuesday experience with Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, right, which was boring, and it actually instead of making you enthusiastic about it, you actually lost the interest, which is a pity. But imagine that you have a space where maybe you talk about, you write a short story because you are into short stories, and another student would dedicate, his or her time to create an illustration, cartoons, or the next one would write a speech, or the other one investigates on Hemingway, and so forth. And all the students then at the end of the day bring their expertise together and present it to the others. And then, then you realize as a student, wow, I can learn from the other students, and I'm a teacher for the other students, and that's relevant. And then maybe there is somebody who really loves Goethe, and then it's also this teacher who brings, who facilitates such content in such a way that it becomes alive. And when it becomes alive, suddenly you say, wow, this is amazing. Wow, Goethe can be that as well, right? And you start to write an article for, for your blog or whatsoever, or you anyway, this is this energy, going with the energy and creating the space for students to explore and to see themselves being really valuable contributors to the panel, right? It's and a part of the syllabus. So what we can say, our syllabus is organically growing all the time, and in the sense that whatever the students bring to the plate, right, becomes part of the syllabus. It's not that we just talk once about Goethe, for instance, but then it becomes, what else is there? Let's look into the history. Do we find also similarities nowadays? How is it related to, to today's approach to life, philosophy, and name them all? But coming more channeled by the teachers and guided also by the teachers, but also the teacher mentor has to be kind of sensitive to capture, the fire in the students, in the students' response, and then everything is possible. Just to give you an example, one of our teachers as well, who said after her first experience with us, she said, well, I'm just, taken aback, because I didn't expect so much to happen, so much to be learned, because even myself, I'm learning every day, right? And my horizon even expands, and so does the horizon of the students in all ways when they are ready to engage. And you can imagine if we have a debate, sometimes like the two of us now may have, or have, then if you have a debate with more people, you can, there is a kind of energy coming together, and the energy creates something new. And so we always get into this generative space of creating. And what can I do? Where does my energy take me today? What can I bring into the world, not only for myself but also for others? Yeah,
brilliantly. And I mean, based on experience, again, I remember being stuck in school. I always had great teachers that upfront. I hated very rare teachers, and I had 2 or 3 teachers who I just hated. I guess everyone has these teachers you just hate or you just can't stand. But I remember one of those hated teachers, let's call them that. she always told me, you're not good enough to write long form essays or, sort of columns, I guess would be the right word to explain. I was always frustrated by this and didn't really believe in it. And nowadays I can easily print and send out a 2,000 word copy without any hassle, but because I had to adapt and learn. And I sort of had this eureka moment, which I hope a lot of your students have in the first couple of days at university, when I realized my second year, Jesus Christ, this is not working out. Because again, after 12 hard years in normal school, the 9 years regular and the 3 years at adaptive, I'm still sitting here 45 to 60 minutes a day. It's still the same. The person in front gives, and you have to take in so much without any filter. You don't know if this information you put down is right or not. You have no idea if this question is going to be in the test, because at the end of the day, the thing which matters most, I guess, in this old traditional school is what grade you're going to get at the end of the day. And if you get one which is positive, you move on. If you're really enthusiastic, you maybe have a goal of a certain number you want to hit, but still you move on, and you don't really get into that mindset of, hey, what if I adapt and learn every time I finish a project? And I can also proudly say, School Beyond Limitations, you also have been a client of us in the past. We also helped you on the media front, but furthermore, you also helped us because we have at least 2 half days or 1 full day a week within our company where we say, if you want to read a book on a certain topic, you want to educate yourself, you can do so. We just had a day yesterday when nobody did nothing. Everyone relaxed because it was too hot. So we also took in that adaptive learning approach to say, hey, at the end of the day, yes, we have our goals, but it's also cool to never stop learning and sort of have that very, I would say, rhythmic approach to actually get your job done, which I see in a lot of the testimonials and the faces of the children School Beyond Limitations can host. I guess one point which probably a lot of parents would ask, because I guess if you ask all of your students, they are very happy sitting in front of an iPad, a laptop, or whatever they might use as a tool. But what do you have to say to the parents who say, is it good or is it safe to keep your children in front of a screen all day? Isn't there a threat to it, like getting stuck to an online world, gaming or whatever? Or are there actually benefits to having those 3 hours sitting there and then having to do your projects?
Well, you see, it's all about balance. Exactly. And what I said initially, I think, is that we teach and educate our students how, of course, we can't say, you always get it right immediately and it comes through immediately. But we constantly educate our students and ourselves, and and we also bring in the families about that, and we are advocates about keeping a balance. And they are 3 hours. They are on the screen for 3 hours. That's in front of the screen for 3 hours. That's true. Although during those 3 hours, sometimes they're also working in groups. And they do. It's not only just in front of the screen. They also create something. They prepare something, whether online. And we do actually advocate to switch the iPhones, the electronic devices off in certain moments. And we discuss that with students. We, for instance, just to give you an example, one of our pillars is also meeting in person, right? And we went to Finland this year. One of our residential weeks took us to Finland. And our focus there was living with nature without electronic devices. So actually the idea came also from the students, because this is a constant, it's not you talk about it once in during a lesson and then it's done. It's a constant reflection. It's always work towards raising awareness. So it came from the students. Once last year in a challenge, one of the students said, I would like to do a challenge to stay without electronic devices over the weekend. How does that feel? I don't want to connect with anybody. I want to really be distant from electronic devices. So it came from the students, and that last year it really worked so well that the students said, why don't we do that during a residential week? And so we did it. And the students, the students together with the teacher mentors, they created the agreements, and they all agreed on handing their iPhones in, for the entire week. The parents were aware that they wouldn't be able to get in touch with their children, and teenagers, of course, as well. And it worked out so well. At the end of the week, we had a long reflection, because reflection is one of our key aspects as well. You were talking about grading before, right? You work towards tests because you have to get this grade and that grade in order to to perform and pursue your future life. And we don't grade. We base it on reflection, on observation, on self-reflection, peer reflection, and group reflection, but also on observation by the teacher. But to getting back, I'm jumping from one thing to the other now. Sure. I realize, no but yeah, we really educate our students. It is about experiencing themselves. What is healthy? What is healthy? Am I now going towards becoming addictive? Addicted to always be online, and we integrate that into the fabrics of School Beyond Limitations, because of course you can see if somebody's always online, and then we talk about how the brain works, what neuroplasticity is all about, what good habits and bad habits are. There can be a bad habit, as you said before. You had to adapt yourself later on how to write. Certain things, certain skills are also repetition and training and so forth. That's why it's embedded in what we are doing. And not necessarily we reach out to everyone immediately, but it's a process, right? But this is at the core of School Beyond Limitations philosophy as well. Although we work online, that's why I would like to say, the online tool has to be adaptive, and it has to be really interactive, and it has to be clear. It has to be experienced what is healthy and what is not healthy anymore. And that may not be, a generalized approach, because maybe for you it's healthy, to stay away from the media. I'm just making an example now for for a day during the week, and for another person it's better to stay away on a regular basis every day, so that they say, okay, of course we always say during eating time, during meeting time, especially when we are meeting in residentials, and we also encourage parents to do that. When you eat together, when you are together, leave your iPhones or your cell phones away. Just, engage with one another, so that the students learn, and we all learn very consciously, to make conscious choices, to not be dragged, trapped into being trapped in a trap, so to say, in this addiction of I need to of doing things in an autopilot modality. And we are getting away from autopilot, because we say we always can make conscious choices, right? It's a choice whether I want to go in this direction or in the other direction. And if I choose to not respect this, then it's my choice. But then we need to understand where that may lead you. Yeah.
Brilliantly. And I guess before I get into the next question, this is also something I realized because Janice, my younger brother, as I mentioned, 9 years, that is a lot of years between two siblings. A lot of fun for him, a lot of frustration for me. But I guess that's for everyone who has younger siblings. And I realized that when he came back from Finland, because he is a very open-minded person. If our parents compare us, my parents always tell me, you are very cautious of who you speak to. You are very cautious of your privacy as well. You're not an open, I wouldn't say I am open-minded, but like an open person. I don't go into the room and I want to talk to everybody. I prefer sitting in the back and letting the people come to me. And I realized that Yanis came back and was like, you know what, these days living without electricity and without actually having to, check Instagram, having to check Snapchat, having also the need to post something, which is, I think, a big part of the struggle I have, for example, on a day-to-day basis. Do I need to be on all the time to get the latest news, to answer that last email? Or is it okay to put stuff away and do it tomorrow? He was really refreshed. And up to this day, obviously, he still watches YouTube and he still educates himself upon it. But there are times where he says, you know what? It's fine if I sit back. It's fine if I read a book. It's fine if I just sit there and don't do anything, which is, I think, a skill not a lot of us have these days. And he really took something out of it. Unfortunately, not everyone these days is like this. I see it in trains a lot. I wish everyone would put the phones away, just look out of the window. Or to quote Toto Wolff, the Formula One team principal of Mercedes, he always says he enjoys flights because he can sit there, stare at the ceiling for about 11 to 15 hours, depending where he's going, and just do nothing. And I think this is also a habit we need to train more. And I am 100% sure whatever addiction your child has, and I'm not talking about a drug addiction or anything, please don't take it the wrong way. I'm talking about phone, games, being active on social media. If he or she stays a week in the school beyond limitations, I think it will have reduced and they will find new horizons to expand into.
If I may say something, if I may just say add something to this, because that just came to me now while you were talking about this. It's also the aspect of being bored. When you told the story of Toto Wolff, right? Who actually enjoys just being there without being connected to anything and just staring at the ceiling. Which is, I think what many people have unlearned is to be bored at times. And, and this is also something we actually say to our students, you can also be just quiet and silent, it's also good, and maybe it may feel as if you were bored initially because you are not used anymore to just be calm and silent and listen to, let's say, because we also do, of course, a lot of mindfulness, a lot of, exercises on emotional intelligence and so forth. And like, for instance, in Finland, we went into nature quietly, nobody talked, and they just listened, and, and that really brings them down. And initially certain people may feel bored because they are so geared, and trained towards being constantly kind of exposed to noise. I call it noise, right? Yes. That they can't, they don't know what to do with themselves anymore when this noise is not there anymore. That's why for us at School Beyond Limitations, it's important that we take this noise out a little bit, right? For instance, one of our students, she got in touch with me, although we have now school holidays, and and this person said to me, I really wanted to just use a day without even talking. I wanted to spend a day without talking. How is that? How do people? How
How
do
old is
people?
this?
This student is 16.
Oh, okay. So an age where you usually talk quite a lot with friends and family and
Yeah,
everything. Wow.
yeah, yeah. How does
Wow.
that feel? I just
Mm,
perceive my surrounding, and of course, this gets kind of instigated, right, through this environment where such things are accommodated, where we say, yeah, let's experience that. Maybe over the
mm,
weekend. That's also
mm.
learning. That's learning. And then let's write
Yep.
about it. You
Yep.
may write an essay about it. The other one, at the age of 16, you may write an essay. At the age of 12, you may write a letter to your pal friend, Paul, I don't know,
Mm.
somewhere or whatever. Or you may want to create an illustration on it. How did that feel? Yeah.
Perfect. I get sometimes it chops you up a bit, Martina, but I guess that's just the internet connection because I just checked we're still live and everything. But
Okay.
just to let you know, sometimes we can hear you, but it stops the image for a split second.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
but I mean, it still works, so we just go with the flow, right?
Yes. As
One
long as one
thing
can
which really
hear, it's
stood out
okay.
to me after,
Sorry.
exactly. One thing which really stood out for me was after that time which my brother spent with you, but also what I heard from all the students was that they really started to become more knowledgeable about the costs of life. Not everything is free in life. You have to work for a certain amount or for a certain thing to actually get reward out of it. And I guess the best thing he learned in that week with you in Finland was the understanding of finances as well. That he understood, okay, for example, if I want to start a project, I need to set out a plan. I need to develop the actual product, but I also need to understand how much does this cost and how much, not only monetary gains, but also time gains. How much time do I need to invest into this? What would you say is the School Beyond of Limitations a result and its teaching out of knowledge with finances? Have you seen families, students coming out where students actually taught their parents what they learned in school? And is it also a very clever investment for the family to make, to say, you know what, it's not actually that our child learns something, but we can get something out of it as well? How much is that financial knowledge attractive to you as a teacher for parents out there?
I think it's extremely important, right? Financial knowledge
Mm-hmm.
is part of life. So why, and it's mathematics as well, right? So we prepare our students for life, and it's important for us that our students actually understand that, because uh, and sometimes it's, as you said, it's really our students bringing it back home and giving some of their insights. Suddenly they realize, oh gosh, it's well, my family is paying for this, but I can do it myself. Because if that's
Mm.
very important. And I think we live in a society, everyone lives in a society where money is part of life, and we can't separate that from the rest either, right? So why not integrate it and embed it also in the fabric of a school context, so that the students from the very beginning, because, for instance, to give you a very, very simple example, right? And if a student is our students are catered for everything when we are doing our residential week. So they get everything, in the sense they get everything they need. But what we always say, we don't need soft drinks, right? We drink water, because first of all, it's healthier, and we talk about that and why that is, and then we also experience it. We even take them to experience certain soft drinks and water, and what is
Mhm.
actually for the body, what is better, right?
Mhm.
So at the end of the day, it's that kind of experience, but also what does a soft drink cost?
Yes.
So we don't pay for that. So if you want to have the soft drink, you pay it for by yourself. So if you have a pocket money, we always say to parents, it's your decision how much pocket money you will give along to your child, right? When they are on residential week, we say sometimes, they don't need anything, because actually they really don't need anything. But if the parents say they should have more, and we deal with that in these circumstances, and we make them not only reflect. We say, well, do the mathematics. If you take a soft drink twice a day or 3 times a day, how much is that in 5 days or 6 days of the residential week? Then sum it up, how much is that in a month? How much is it in a year? What would you like to have? If you want to have a new cell phone, for instance, why do you want your parents to buy your cell phone? Why can't you do it? So you get an understanding. So you add up everything, what you can save if you don't go for the soft drink. And at the end of the day, you have this pleasure, your intrinsic pleasure. Well, I actually created now something. This is my first phone. I don't know whether you remember the first thing that you ever bought with your own money. I remember,
for me, it was a Nokia 3310S in blue with silver buttons. I remember that to this day because I had to carry out a lot of newspapers to get it.
You see, and how did it feel? How did that feel to you? Was that?
It felt amazing because you actually financed it yourself. Exactly. And I also have to add, that was also something which was instructed to me. If you want to buy something, you have to earn it. There were very strict rules. My mom used to be a bankier, so we had very strict rules, how I could spend money. But still to this day, I can remember the phone module. I can remember the buttons, how they felt. It's a memory you keep for life, for sure. And it all started there. How much am I allowed to spend daily to get this phone? So I think the drink is a lovely, lovely example to see how aware I think these kids can become, because also from a personal standpoint, this is something I see a lot of my friends missing. They graduated universities now. On paper, they are much, much more intelligent than I am, let's say it, because I dropped out. I'm probably not the best example in an education system for this, but I'm always shocked to see these masters in economics, in mathematics, in physics. Sometimes my friends, they have no idea how much money they waste if they go out every Saturday, for example, from, 7 p.m. till probably 5 a.m. or whatever the next day. So that understanding is missing because they didn't have the experience in the beginning. And I guess to also sum up, imagine now you having 1,000 students coming out of a school like Beyond Limitations. During a crisis like this, they grew through a crisis. Now, I still remember the day when all the banks had to, close their doors in 2008 because there was a financial crisis going on. They will for sure remember this pandemic, but they won't remember it in a negative way. They will remember all the things they learned in school beyond. And now imagine this generation bringing up the next generation, which will be adapted to this new learning method. Because I just had this thought when you spoke about it. Imagine a 6-year-old going to first class these days. They would have had to adapt to this online format. And if they do it out of this pandemic into their late teens, they will already know how to use these new learning methods for their advantage. So I guess they're only positives. And as you mentioned, if you have the mix between on and offline, you'll have a pretty good formula to get that new method and that new methodology of learning online out there.
May I just say something very quickly?
I don't have any more further.
No, Joël, I just wanted to say, because you made this, this statement before, I may not be as intelligent as those people who went to university and completed. I just wanted to reframe that, because I think this is also something we want to let's say we want to educate our students. We are all for academia as well, because we prepare them too for academia if they want to go there. But that's not better or worse. It's about learning. So the learning is the essence and the outcome of that learning, and what I put into practice and what I bring into the world. That's important, and how I can then, navigate life in a way that I see life as an opportunity, instead of seeing it out of the perspective of somebody, who is dependent on somebody else, because I don't have a job, for instance. We want our students to understand that they can create jobs if they want to, right? They can not only create their enterprise, they can create jobs, and they can be a contribution to society. So just to get back to what you were saying before, because this is I'm as you saw at the beginning, I used to be in academia and still in academia. I do love academic writings and so forth, but still it's not more important than less important. It's another way. It's about learning and being open for learning and being open for oneself and the other, because it's this correlation between one and the other, right? That's so important, that there is a correlation that I understand as a human being. I'm so to say, a very unique, divine person, and the same is the other, and it's based then on respect and on contribution. Because I will never forget, I was once in the kingdom of Bhutan, and I read outside of a school, "Come to learn and leave to serve," right? And I love that, because it's you come in to learn, but I would like to expand that. Be ready to learn all the time, so you will be serving and you will be giving and taking, because then then there is a balance. Sorry for just coming in on that, because I really felt.
No worries. I have two of those friends watching live now, so I would have said we're on the same level, but I meant academia intelligence by that. If you have your diploma these days, thinking about the old system, it's still worth it. In terms of my approach, going out earlier, starting the business, growing that way, I guess I have another form of intelligence, but I don't want to bash on them and tell them that I'm more in an economic stand, more intelligent or less intelligent than them. And let's be honest, there are many levels of intelligence, aren't they?
Yes.
To develop and also to discover, I guess. So they're still watching, so I didn't disencourage any of them, which is a good sign. And it's lovely to have them here as well, and to possibly also see the other side of this academic or this learning experience. I am through with all my questions, Martina. And I would love to know, I've tried to tease a bit if there are questions out of the live audience now, because I can see there's a lot of engagement going on. I can see people seeing in live, coming from all different sources. And I guess if I just go by the names, also from all different countries again, which is a big plus. If you have any questions at the moment, which you want to answer live, obviously, let us know in the comments below now. If you're okay, I can even show your question. But I also want to give a small plug to the website of School Beyond, which if you for sure want to find out more, I will leave the link here below. We will also add the link in the comments, so you can immediately click on it there. And I really encourage you to look through the website. I've seen you've made some changes. It looks a bit fresher than when I last checked it out. And there is a lot of information on there for you to find out if this new adaptive way of learning is the one in the near future for you and your child. I'll just wait a bit to let people see the link. And as I said, again, if there are any questions, please let us know below. And actually, one more thing came up, Martina. If you would have a time machine, let's be very futuristic and very much stuck into a novel or into a story. If you would have a time machine for yourself and you would have the ability to go back into an earlier version of you, possibly just graduating school, getting into a first job as a teacher, obviously technology wouldn't have caught up back then. It wouldn't have the quality we have today. But what of your teachings and of your methodology with School Beyond Limitations would you take out, go back in time and actually teach a younger self of you to support this new way of learning for that time branch or that future? What one thing would you pick up and give to you as a gift?
The one thing which I would certainly make space for personal development and entrepreneurial development and money education and looking, and approaching all the topics not out of just one perspective, but looking at it from different angles, which honestly speaking, somehow I've always started already to do. It was kind of interesting, but of course, this is very important, so that we unlearn throughout. I unlearned throughout my school career and also later on. That the value of yourself. What is the value of your own being and your own specific contribution? Right. And I think that's very important, that a human being can, so to say, develop according to his or her design, according to his or her, let's say, uniqueness, and then make sure that this person can bring the beauty of their contribution into the world. Is that what you meant as a question, or have I gone off tangent?
I think it's cool to see. I think if you ask many people these questions, they sort of go, "Oh, I would tell them to do this or do that." And I love the approach that you said. There is actually a lot of growth, but you personally, not on a performance level within your job or within your friends and family, but you have a lot of potential within yourself to grow, and therefore also take a big leap into the future to actually close the whole circle, full circle,
exactly.
and be able.
And Joël, imagine every person were to be able to really bring this uniqueness into life, and would enjoy what they are doing, that doesn't mean that sometimes we don't have to do certain, tasks that may not be as exciting, but the core, you have your why to live, right? So you find your why and you bring it into the world. Imagine. Do you think that I believe that then we don't look at the other, we don't compare ourselves with the others. We just say, this is my uniqueness and this is the other person's uniqueness. That doesn't mean that mine is more important over the other, and vice versa. And so we all coexist and co-create, right?
Lovely. I will really open up the question around if there are any live questions, because I can see we have enough of people. If there are not and you are shy, don't worry. You can still ask them in the comments below, and we could obviously answer them after the live stream. But like I said before, I would really encourage you, and I will try to show the link again, to check out the website School Beyond Limitations. And I guess if you have a personal questions, or if you want to maybe get to know Martina a bit closer, I guess it isn't too bad to reach out to you as well and arrange a talk there. Because Martina is unlike most of the normal teacher. She's very open. You're very cool to talk to. You're very flexible as well. I mean, we've seen that. We arranged a meeting with you a couple of weeks back in Zurich within 10 minutes, and everything worked out great. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to Martina, and to for sure visit the website if there is anything you would like to know later out of this live stream.
I just wanted to say there's also a section on our website where, we have a frequently asked questions section, where maybe questions which come up very regularly are already answered. But there is also a section where you can put your specific question there, and then you will get an answer by us, either by me or by somebody else. And yes, indeed, of course, if you are a family that thinks in terms of, maybe school beyond limitations could be the right environment for your daughter or for your son, then if you're really interested in everything what you have read and seen seems to be in line with how you view education and learning and raising, young human beings, then please get in touch with us, and we will arrange a private, conversation where we can certainly discuss and ponder a little bit your individual situation. Yeah.
Perfect. One more thing came up, Martina, when you said that about the frequently asked questions. Taking a look at the situation now, and it doesn't matter which country, it doesn't matter what is going on right now today. If you could take out one thing out of this situation, you would love to see other schools adapt as well. And I mean, regular schools, where you also have to go there physically. What would that be? And it can't be the self-development part, it would be something else, but you would love to see in the, let's call it, normal school system implemented as well.
I would get away from the, from the structure structure of having subjects that are limited to 45 minutes. I would open up this space for project learning, experiential learning. That doesn't and much more can be achieved at the end of the day, much more, because you start from somewhere, you take it to conclusion, and the students, as you mentioned before, when Yanis, your brother came back, you start with the questions, you think about the questions, you think already about what you know, what you don't know, where you want to go into more depth with, and then you go through the entire process, this inquiry cycle, and then at the end of the day, you make it relevant, you present it, but you then also think in terms, what else can I do with that? What else is possible, right? Is it just there for the sake of doing a project, or can I really make a difference already in my surrounding? Whether this is, sustainability, sustainable projects, or whether this is helping elderly people, or whether this is just, giving an act of kindness to somebody, it can be, or maybe setting up, I don't know, a library of life stories, of people, interviewing people and stuff like that, and making it available to the world. So I would do that. I would get away from this structure, because you get away from the flow. And you just I remember in one of my previous settings, I used to be before the foundation, before we founded School Beyond Limitations, I used to be a principal of international schools, and we introduced vertical learning moments across the school. in mathematics, in different areas. So we also organized an expo project where students got engaged, and not only students, but also the entire community got engaged in presenting something with regards to specific themes, right? And we experienced that left much more of an imprinting footprint in the students than just learning 45 minutes for something and then getting out. I used to, a few years ago, I was asked whether I could come into a school just, to release a teacher for a few weeks. And since I had time, I did it at the time. And I was shocked, because the students, they were, it took them a long time to get into the flow. And the teacher all the teachers were, not all of them, but many were unhappy, because it's not only the students, it's also the teachers.
Sure.
And, as a side effect, and this is also something what we can say here in School Beyond Limitations, the teachers are happy. They're so moved by what, happy, because they are also constantly, in this energy of creation. Yeah.
Cool. One question came up. It came up in German, and I'll just translate it into English. Is, with all these innovative ideas with this different approach, I guess it's a fair question to say, when does the actual school year start? Is it the same as in most European countries, mid-August, end of August, or do you even start later, earlier? How is the schedule there as well?
Well, we do start at the end of August. Yeah, it's like a normal school year. It's not completely a normal school year because it's a little bit different. We start at the end of August and we finish at the end of June. But throughout the school year, we don't have that many holidays anymore. We do actually have a holiday over Christmas and a shorter holiday over Easter. But for the rest, we don't have the other holidays because we also stand for freedom. If for instance, this is an example which is really recent. I'm a little bit puzzled because we also are, a platform and a learning environment where we facilitate global citizenship, not only through our traveling around Europe and maybe later on even beyond. But we encourage our students to travel because they can take the school with them, right? So if they travel with their parents, they can travel, right? Because they learn so much through traveling. Because if they go, let's say, I don't know, they live in Spain, and then they travel with their parents to Great Britain, then they come back with a baggage full of experiences in Great Britain and bring it back to school and to their peers as well, which is fascinating. And I just learned recently that, in certain countries, it's still mandatory that you physically go to school, and the Ministry of Education actually says you will be if you violate, if you travel and you don't come to school, you can't. You have to come to school because traveling is, so to say, something that is not meant. That's not seen as a learning opportunity, right? So it's actually banished. You have to go to school. You can't travel. And I was kind of shocked to read that a ministry, of education, says that you are not allowed to travel because you miss out on school. But at the other hand, you learn so much, especially if you are online. I mean, if I'm sitting in Great Britain, I can still connect with school, right? But in the afternoon, I go to have a sightseeing tour in London or whatever comes, and then you bring it back. And this is enrichment. This is, so this is what School Beyond Limitations is doing.
I have two more comments. One is a compliment towards you from Mira, and I think I can blend this one in. Mira, I hope you're okay that we can see your image from your Facebook profile. But she thanks you for your open-minded attitude and your experience. Also, thanks for the insights. And then I guess we have a very cool question coming from Nicola. At first, I can't show it because it would probably fill up the whole screen. It's a bit of a longer question.
Okay.
But it's an interesting one because we can get into a discussion there as well. He loves what you are doing with School Beyond, but he has two blocks. One is financially because he has 3 kids. His kids are willing to try it, but his older kids are 12 and 15 years old. So he's probably seeing the end of the school time there. And he asks about the price. I don't know if you checked out the price already, Nicola, or not. He does compare to a online school called Galileo XP. I don't know if you know it, Martina.
I know it, yeah.
Perfect. And he would love to know what the difference is there as to why this one is cheaper than School Beyond Limitations, as the end, fees with residentials and stuff still included. And at the end, that kids also have to go to an exam and stuff. So what is your viewpoint on why you decided that pricing? And maybe you can share also how and what you came out with in terms of financial aid with School Beyond Limitations.
Yes. Well, that's a great question. Thank you for this question. Yeah. Well, the pricing, of course, is related. I know Galileo, and they work differently. And it's a cool solution for very self-directed learning, model. What we are doing in School Beyond Limitations, at School Beyond Limitations, is a very personalized approach. So imagine you only have 8 students in one class, 8 students, and those 8 students have 2 full professional teachers, right? We are self-financed, so we don't have any subsidies by anybody. So it's full self-financed, and all, as you said before, Joël, all the residential weeks are included. So everything is included, and that makes the price. So our students, they, as I said before, we organize, all. We really cater for the students one-on-one. So it's not only their individual mentor session once a week and the 3 hours. They can get in touch with their teacher mentors, so to say, throughout. I don't want to say 24 hours because at nighttime our teachers also sleep, right? But they can get in touch with them at any time. So it's really extremely personalized. And even in the summer, as I said, now we are on summer holiday. Our students, for instance, they got in touch with either me or the teachers. And if they want to have a session, they can have a session if they want to. So it's still all open. And then we organize, also this connections with entrepreneurs. We are very, very flexible, very adaptive. So that's Galileo can't do that, of course. Can't do that because we have very, very the number of our student body is small in one classroom context, and that's why the price is there. And however, and as you said before, Joël, we from the very start we said we want to also, first of all we give, and we also, offer this idea that our students become generators of their finances. So why not? Maybe at the end of the day they will be able to finance themselves. Who knows? And as a side effect, some of our families, they became even more successful in their businesses due to that as well. So it has a lot of side effects. And what we also wanted to give, we want to make School Beyond Limitations a real, learning bus environment. And so we allocate one scholarship to one student in each class. That's a full paid scholarship by School Beyond Limitations. So, and there we, of course, also invite students from, we have now applicants, also coming from Kenya and Bangladesh and Pakistan. So we become more and more, international.
Cool. So, Nicola, if you want to get to know more out of this, maybe contact Martina, because I'm sure the scholarship would be an option. And as we said, who knows what a kid can do within a year to possibly even finance himself, or at least aid the family with this topic. So if there's any questions, either comment below this live stream, or for sure, I guess I can say this, Martina, don't hesitate to reach out to you as well, over Messenger or over the website.
Yes, cool. Of course.
So far, I don't see any further questions, and I don't want to pull this out too long into the distance here. First of all, from my side, Martina, it was lovely having you as a guest, I would say, on here, and having the opportunity to talk to you about this new module, this new methodology of learning. And also, I guess it's a cool insight to see that there are other options up on the horizon. You can actually get more out of, instead of just sitting there and listening, to be active and learn. So thanks from our end as well to you for coming up with this idea and being there for all of these people who want to find a new way and want to experience their kid a new way as well. So thanks from my end for being here, for giving us the opportunity, and also for being this flexible to answer if there are any questions after this live stream.
Joël, I would like to thank you for this wonderful talk, and I really enjoyed this exchange with this young entrepreneur. And one can tell that you are always you are an active listener, you're a real listener. You are doing lots of different things at the same time, but you are always present, and you make this choice. And this is so much reflecting what School Beyond Limitations is standing for. And thank you for the questions. Thank you for the time, and thank you for arranging all this, because one can see that you are a real expert in your field.
Thank you very much. There was just one question which snuck in, Martina. Maybe you can answer it quickly. Okay. How many residentials are there per year? 3 or 4?
It's 3. It's 3.
Perfect.
It's 3. Yes. So in the coming year we have one. We always start the school year with a residential. Because we want, and there also parents are invited, because we actually create a community, right? That's also interesting to know. It's not only sending your child to school, it's also creating community among all stakeholders. And then we will be, we'll end of November, we will be in the southern part of Spain, in Andalusia. And then we will have a third one at the end of March, and that will take us to Germany.
Perfect. So yes. Nicola also said thank you very much. And as we said, if there are any questions, please let us know below. Martina, I want to also wish you a happy evening now. I guess it's the end of the business day, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
If you want to reach out, either check out the link. We also pasted it into the comments below, or don't hesitate to contact School Beyond on all their socials or websites. I know you deserve a glass of wine. I deserve probably a glass of wine after today. And I wish all of our lovely viewers a wonderful evening as well. And again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you, Joël.
Thank you. Goodbye. Bye.
Goodbye.